morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am Dr. T. Lynn Smith, and this is another edition of My Political Faith. Certainly, we're grateful for this opportunity to share with you on Black Women Empowered, and we want to give a shout out to our CEO and President, Dr. Jacqueline King. Thank you for this opportunity. And for those of you that don't know, the motto of Black Women Empowered is empowering the world through the ministry of Jesus Christ. That is exactly what we do. Empower the world through the ministry of Jesus Christ. So we invite you tonight to be a part of our discussion. I have a very ambitious young man who's doing great work, both in the political arena and in the spiritual arena, who's going to be sharing with us tonight. Our topic is simply, what if I don't like the results? Yes, what if I don't like the results? Whatever the results might be, what if I don't like them? And so I'd like for you to welcome our guest tonight, Rashad Frazier Gaines. He is the CEO and president of Amplified Action. Welcome, Rashad. It is so good to have you on the show tonight.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, Dr. Smith.
Thank you so very much. I know that this is a very busy time for you, and you have a lot going on, and you have a lot at stake. Just basically kind of tell us what you're doing, tell us about your organization, and what prompted you to move in the direction that you're in at this time.
Yes, ma'am. So I am the Chief Strategy Officer for Amplify Action and the President of Amplify Action Fund. We are both a 501c3 and a 501c4 nonpartisan nonprofit. Our entire framework and theory of change is surrounding our belief that by changing the politics of Black men, that we change the politics of the South. So being that I grew up in church, I believe that Black men in particular have a duty and a charge to us with being providers for our family, leading our family in the best ways possible. An extension of family being community as well. So in my purview, if we want to change what Black America looks like, we have to start with Black men. Many years ago, and the quote is slipping me right now, I use it all the time, but there was a poet that once said, you can't repair broken men, you have to start with children, and I completely agree with that. But if we don't have decent people raising children, we are repeating the cycle of building broken men. So we have to attack both at the same time. We can't just give up on all of the adults. We have to work with the adults and work with the children at the same time. So it is our belief that we have to focus on Black men, which repairs Black families. And if we repair Black families and we have Black families involved in the political process, we can change the politics of the South. If we can change the politics of the South, we can change the politics of America.
That's for sure.
Yes,
For sure. A lot of people say, well, why are you just doing an effort that is focused on Black men? What about Black women? What prompted you to just push for the Black man? I know you shared a little bit, but, I'm sure you were raised by a mother who was very dominant in your life. So what made you make this turn?
Well, I actually don't know who my biological father is. And unfortunately, that's something that a lot of Black people have in common. Something that we don't talk about. Like, it's one thing for people to say who your dad is, but it's another thing for you to actually know, right? So that is my personal outlook on that. And I'm very grateful for my mother and my grandmother and my adopted mother, who all had a very strong hand in raising me into the man that I am today. But I would be lying if I said that being 35 years old, not knowing who my biological father is, doesn't have, implications and ramifications, or has had them in my life, right? So with that being said, 2018, I want to say, Doug Jones won the special election in Alabama.
Yes.
And when he won, it was like the next day, every journalist and every political pundit, philosopher, whatever, woke up the next morning and said, "Oh my gosh, Black women vote. Black women determine elections." And all of the Black people are like, "Yeah, we been knew that. Nothing new." So over the last 2 years, we've seen a huge um, block of activity and actions and money geared toward Black women in the political space, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think Black women are owed that. And instead of being the Black man that says, "Well, wait, what about Black men?" I'll be the Black man that starts an organization that focuses on Black men and raises money to do the work that we need to do on Black men. I'm not going to try to take any credit from Black women. I'm not trying to take their space. I want them to be great. But we're Black and we've been through things. We can both be great together. This doesn't have to be a Black man versus Black women. And unfortunately, in the political world, um, the political world is not like church at all, right? Um, in the political world, Black men and Black women fight because unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes there's still only room for one Black person at the table. And Shirley said, if they won't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Well, what about the rooms that they don't allow you in? Right? There are some rooms where you can come in and stand on the wall. There are some rooms that you can't get into. So we're just going to build our own house.
I think that's amazing. And I want to commend you on being the Black man that says, hey, we can both build and we're going to do this. But more than that, you're showing us how it's being done. And I'm just super proud of you. So, in your opinion, what has deterred Black men from being involved in politics?
So I was talking to a Black man here in Atlanta the other night, and we were talking about. He said that this is only going to be his second time voting for
Wow.
president, and he's turning 50 on Christmas Day.
Wow. I'm going to try to keep my face straight. I'm sorry.
Well, mine was like this because when people say things that I can't process, I do that. Oh, because I used to frown a lot, but I've been working on smiling.
We appreciate that.
So I asked him why, and he said, "Well, I voted for Kerry." He said, "I've lived in Georgia my entire life," and he said, "It's not that I don't believe that my vote doesn't count." He said, "I vote for mayor, I vote for county council, I vote for state rep." He said, "But I never vote." He said, "This will be my second time voting for president because I feel like my vote doesn't count because of the electoral college." He said, "Atlanta is very blue, but Atlanta is not all of Georgia."
Correct.
So he didn't feel that his vote counted because of the electoral college process, which to me showed his intelligence that he understood how that actually worked. And he immediately followed up with, "I vote in local elections. I vote in every other election. I'm not big on the presidential piece." And I thought that was really interesting that he could see where his vote had a direct impact in electing the representative versus where it didn't. And I thought that was a very interesting piece because those are the conversations that I'm having with Black men. Local elections matter. Like if for most ballots, the president is the first race on the ballot. But I know many people who don't vote for president, they immediately go to the next page and they vote for senator and House of Representative member. They're going to vote for governor and the statewide offices, the state senator, state representative, all the way down to county council, city council, mayor, and dog catcher if they're electing dog catcher. I believe in voting for every race that's on the ballot, but I can understand why people who are informed see a disconnect between the popular vote and the electoral college. And that's something that we as a country really haven't figured out because, some will argue that maybe it's time for the electoral college to go. My counter to that is we only argue that when our person doesn't win both.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, well, let me ask the question that's an elephant in the room. How does my vote make an impact? You talked about the electoral college, and then the second part of that would be, what if I don't like either of the candidates?
So let me so let me I'll finish answering the first question, then I'll move to that. So I think when people don't see their neighborhoods changing and their communities changing, they see their communities declining. The motivation to believe in rhetoric that's coming from the news sources or elected officials is very, very low. Because if you've been my congressional representative for 20 something years and you're this national hero, but Cleveland Avenue still looks like Cleveland Avenue.
Yeah.
MLK Boulevard or Avenue in most cities is not very nice. So, and this congressional figure is like a national hero and symbolism of hope, but their district, parts of their district look like, third world countries. It's a problem. When I lived and worked in Philadelphia, very vibrant city, but 6 o'clock, every store is shut down, and you got these gates and chains and fences coming up out of nowhere, and it's like a ghost town. People don't have access to fresh food.
Wow.
The nearest grocery store is 3 bus transfers away. You have to get your dinner from the donut shop or the bodega. There are so many issues, right? And some people need an eye line because everyone doesn't dream, and everyone isn't given the gift of dreams and the gift of visions. So for people who God has not given the ability to dream and have visions and see sights, the only thing they can see is what's in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their fault that they've lost hope. So you have some with a measure of intelligence that are saying, hey, there are some discrepancies. The system isn't working. The system isn't broken. And on the other hand, you have some that literally can't see the forest because of the tree that's in front of them. And that's not all Black men, but I'm trying to give you a understanding of the major disconnects we have because Black people aren't a monolith, right? So all Black men aren't going to think the same and envision things differently. But those are the two extremes that we're dealing with. And we're trying to marry the two and find ways to bring all of the many groups and facets and thought processes of Black men so that we can get them involved in the political process.
That makes sense. That's good. And then, so what if I don't like either of the candidates?
Look,
I mean, hey,
we've all been here before, right?
I was going to say our last cycle was certainly another example of that. But here we see what we got as a result of it. So now I still ask the question. Now, after we've gotten what we got, what if I don't like either of the candidates? What do I do? How do the Black men that you have engaged with, how do they think about this question? How do they respond?
So this is interesting here because there is a part of me that says whether you like them or not, do whatever amount of research you need to do to find one that you can stomach to vote for. Like that is the end result. Because my goal is to get people to vote, period. I don't care whether you're voting for Trump, Biden, Jorgensen, or whoever else is on the ballot with these random minor political parties. I just need you voting, period. Like I need the numbers of Black men participating in the process to increase. So you do whatever you need to do. Go visit all the websites, listen to the podcast, this YouTube shows, CNN, MSNBC, whatever. Figure it out because you need to vote. You need to be involved in the political process. On the other hand, since this show is called My Political Faith, the Bible, God has never really been a fan of this whole lesser of two evils thing. We're supposed to do what's right, period. And the Bible speaks about obeying the laws of the land and rendering unto Caesar what is his. I think that we have to have start having realistic conversations in church to help people get to the place where they can work through that angst and that disgust. Because I don't care how angry we are with a particular political party or how disgusted we are with a candidate. The reality is, you live in a nation where your people have been ostracized and depressed and oppressed for so long. There is no reason for you not to exercise your right to vote, period. Like, I don't care how ugly it gets. People were literally drug out of their homes and set on fire and castrated and hung so that we could vote.
Mm-hmm.
Just and that's on the black side. On the spiritual side, like, how are we going to exercise our dominion over the earth if we're not doing the things that people with dominion do? People with dominion vote if that is the process of how the society moves. We're not all kings and queens with our own land and royal subjects, right? We are subjected. The system that we're subjected to requires us to vote to choose our leaders and to choose laws that we will then be governed by.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not vote to change or endorse the people who are writing the laws that your life are subjected to? And so we can attack it from many different angles, but the reality is, I don't like all the people on the ballot either. I don't know who's listening and what English class they went to. But I'm still obligated to vote. I'm still obligated to participate in the process. And for the folks who are like, well, on my ballot, there are a lot of races where it's only one person. Well, you got the ability to write in. If you don't like that person, you can write somebody in. And if enough of y'all write that person in, they could actually win. I know many people who won on a write-in. And then so many political seats actually go unfilled every year, and then they're just appointed because no one ran.
Yeah, that's so true.
So I would say, in addition to that I just said, I would also say, if you don't like the candidates in any particular race, you yourself can run. You and your group of friends, your fraternity brothers, your sorority sisters, your church members, your crew, your Friday night crew. Find somebody to run. Pick somebody that you all like. Tell them you want to support them. Raise money for them. Knock on doors for them. Build them a website. Get them on Instagram. Help them reach people. Buy a radio spot for them. Like, whatever it's going to take for you to help amplify that person's voice and their name ID. If you don't like the people that are running at any level of the ballot, from president all the way down to ball catcher, run yourself.
That makes sense. And as the Bible says, faith without works is dead. So certainly having an aspiration is one thing, but you've got to have some grassroots and people getting behind you. The other thing is, many times we as Black people, we are so stuck on one or two issues. And so that's what frames our voice. And what we have to remember is God is neither Republican or Democrat. It's God. And so we have to be mindful that we don't allow one or two issues to bind us and keep us captive. And then we allow ourselves to be captive in the larger sense because of one issue. And that happens so often in church.
Yeah. So in the church that I'm a member of, oftentimes I get really annoyed when we harp on two particular issues.
Yeah.
And one being abortion or being pro-choice, and then the second being same-sex marriage. Black people, we're gonna have to start exercising sense
Yeah.
in some areas. I don't know a single family, and I know a lot of families. I don't know a single family that hasn't been touched by abortion.
Absolutely.
I don't know a single family that doesn't have at least one person whose sexuality can be called into question.
Certainly.
Um, yeah, we got to do better because
Yeah.
the way we can't allow our lives to continue to be subjected to the horror.
Mhm.
Like being a Black person living in America, especially in certain parts of the South, is
Mhm.
like living in a horror story. And
This is
we're allowing, like, we're literally voting against our best interests. Like, we're cutting our nose off to spite our face because of
yes.
something that literally has nothing to do with you. If you're not gay, you don't have to work. You don't have to be in a gay marriage.
Right. Right.
And if churches actually taught, like, people how to use condoms instead of saying abstain from sex, maybe we wouldn't have the number of church kids that we have who get pregnant at the summer youth conference every year.
Yeah.
Or shut-ins, because I remember being a kid in the shut-in, and I knew how to do things when the church mother would slip off sleep. And they did their best to stop us from acting up, and I acted all the way up, and it was not in Jesus' name. Um, so all I'm saying is that I'm not encouraging anybody to vote for the Democratic Party, but if you're a Black person in America who is choosing to vote against the interests of not only yourself, but for our entire community because of gay marriage and abortion, I don't just question your intellect, I question your spirituality. Because the greatest commandment that Jesus left us in the New Testament was that we love one another as he loves us. Jesus did not say love everybody except gay people. He did not say treat everybody right except the young girl who gets pregnant. That's not what he said.
That's true.
So I'm just confused. And again, I'm not advocating for people to vote Democrat. What I'm advocating for is that if you're going to be a Black person that votes Republican, be sensible. And if your answer is gay right, is being anti-gay rights or anti-gay marriage or anti-abortion, I question, like, your intelligence, and I question your salvation.
Wow. Thank you for that. That's amazing. So tell me this, what is your organization doing to change the trend of how minorities, and in particular Black men, participate in the political arena?
So I'm excited you asked me that question. We registered over 30,000 Black men to vote in the South between North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama in 3 months.
Wow.
30,000 Black men. If you visit our website, ampourvote.com, you'll see the tools that we had on there. They could register to vote. They could go on to find their polling location. Any changes in local election laws were immediately updated. Filling out your absentee ballot. We even had it to the point, like, the team that we worked with to build our technology was Vote America. And they had it to where, like, Texas, I use Texas as an example. Texas didn't accept online registration, right? They would accept a fax. So we had this, and Texas requires what's called a wet signature. It couldn't be a digital signature. It had to be a wet signature. So the system would allow you to enter your cell phone number.
Okay.
It would text you. You would take a picture of your signature on a white piece of paper, send the picture back to the system. The system would upload your signature to the form, and then the tech team would mail it to the state of Texas. So we did all of the homework so that you didn't have to. Because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, your registration form is complete. Please print it, sign it, and mail it in or fax it in.
Mm-hmm.
We got to make stuff easy for people because people are busy, and who has a fax machine in their home? Like nobody. Like nobody. Okay, you Dr. Smith. Okay, so Dr. Smith is the only person I know with a fax machine in her home. So people don't even. I mean, we don't even say facsimile, right? And that's the full name of it. But the programs that the tech team that, excuse me, partner that we use, tech partner at Vote America, did all of the homework so that we could make it easy for folks. And so at Amplify Action and Amplify Action Fund, our first tenet is to register Black men to vote. Mm-hmm. Our second tenet is to make sure we mobilize them. So after they register to vote, we've re-engaged them, we've emailed them, we've talked to them on the phone, we text them to make sure they voted, whether that was absentee or in person. We partnered with Uber and Lyft to make sure that folks who live in major cities can get to the polling locations. So Atlanta, Philadelphia, Orlando, Los Angeles, Chicago, the cities that are opening up these arenas to have these large mega voting centers because of COVID, make it easier for folks. You can get a free ride to the polls. In other cities, you can get 20% off of your ride to the polls. And then the third tenet is after the election, teaching these men how to become advocates for their community. Our goal is to have 100 Black men running for school board across the country over the next 2 years. 100 Black men running for city council, county council, mayor, and municipalities. 100 Black men running for state house and state senate. 100 Black men running for Congress. Like, our goal is to give these men the tools that they need so that whatever level they want to be involved, they have access. So they're learning how to fundraise, learning how to do media, learning how to run campaigns, learning how to be candidates, learning how to write policy, learning how to champion policy. Like, we're trying to attack this from every side. So whether they want to run for office or they want to be behind the scenes, we want to help them gather the tools that they would need to be successful.
That is amazing. You guys have done, sounds like, from A to Z. You know, many times organizations have great aspirations and endeavors, but they leave out steps. And I'm thankful to hear that you said, you know, you guys didn't mind doing the homework to make it easy, you know, having the signature uploaded and so forth and so on. But then not just stopping there, but then giving people opportunity. Okay, so we've gone this far. Now take the next step. Don't you want to run for office? Don't you want to run for this? I think that is amazing. Congratulations. I got a question I want to ask you. So as you've developed this large texting and email, these portals, what percentage have you noticed thus far of people, you know, are at the point now where it's like, don't send me any more texts, don't send me any more emails? Because I know that the parties that I'm involved with, I get at least 8 to 10 text messages or emails a day. And so how do you know when to take your hands off, so forth and so on, so that it doesn't become so overwhelming for the people that you're trying to attract?
So I've been doing this a long time. So in 2012, there are a lot of challenges with the state of Florida when it comes to voting. But what I will say the state of Florida does a great job with is communicating data to the campaigns. So when I worked for President Obama's re-election in 2012 in St. Petersburg, Florida, every morning we would get an update on the people who voted by absentee the day before.
Okay.
So when we would call folks and they would say, I already voted. You lying. If you already voted, you wouldn't be on my list. You want me to stop calling? Go vote. Now, every state doesn't do that. Every state doesn't update the campaigns and all of that. But we were updated regularly. And I've never, in all of the states I've worked for, it's never been that easy for it, like it was in Florida. So now what I will say is I think contact fatigue is a very real thing, and people definitely get it and they deal with it. To those folks, I would say, I'm sorry that you feel like you're being harassed, but that should show you how important your vote is, that you have all of these different entities encouraging you to get to the polls.
That's
Now,
good.
on the Amplify Action side, we've done such a great job with building these intimate relationships with folks that when our team and volunteers text folks, they literally respond, "Oh, hey, Brandon," or "Oh, hey, Rashad, what's going on?" Yeah, me and my family, like, we have a different reception because we write our text messages in a way that the Black man receiving that text message knows that he's talking to another Black man. And the folks that we're talking to associate the Amp Our Vote or Amplify Action brand with myself and my business partner, who's my best friend, Brandon Upson. So for us, it's a little different because we build intimate relationships with these folks. But there's a difference when you receive a text message from a family member or a friend and when you receive it from some computer or somebody you've never heard of. So I think that's a piece of it. So my encouragement to the political groups that are doing this work is start building relationships with people outside of the election year. Then they won't be so rude and nasty. I've worked on campaigns, so I've been on Hustle and these different things where we text people. People are rude and nasty. Especially the Saints. The Saints know how to use 4 and 5 letter words real good.
Now be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind to the Saints.
I'm just saying, Dr. Smith, people get real creative with language when they're annoyed. But I think it's a difference. I'm not upset at the individual. I'm upset with my colleagues in this work because if you're building relationships with people, if you're not only reaching out to Black people after Labor Day when it's time to get the vote out, you can rest assured that they're going to turn out. If you actually start registering Black voters before Labor Day, knowing that you only have 1 month left, you can actually expand the electorate. So I blame the political parties for that fatigue because they literally haven't talked to Black people all year.
And then,
most Black people have started being harassed after Labor Day.
Right.
That's not fair.
You're right. As we bring our conversation to a close, Rashad, is there one or two things that you would like to say to people as we deal with what if I don't like the results? I know you've shared, and also make sure you share your information so that people can get involved or at least have an opportunity to be contacted. So share one thing that you'd like to leave with our audience tonight, and then share your contact information so people can get involved with your action group.
So, Dr. Smith, I would love to be wrong and say that we shouldn't be concerned about the results tomorrow night. But that is the farthest thing from the truth. Supreme Court Associate Justice Brett Kavanaugh has already made some foreshadowing remarks about trying to make the states stop counting votes. President Donald Trump has reiterated that same rhetoric. We should be concerned. So I know that there are a lot of voter protection units, which are full of attorneys and voting rights activists and so forth, who are on standby and who are prepping for lawsuits and the full gambit, because we believe that there's going to be a showdown. The United States Constitution puts the presidential elections in the hands of state legislatures, not state governors, in the hands of state legislatures. So this would be any act by the Supreme Court or President Trump or any entity outside of state legislatures to control the output of the election is definitely going to be problematic and scary. So folks should be concerned about that. They should be aware that this is a real thing. I'm sorry about that. I'm in my hotel room. I apologize. But with that being said, that is a real concern. It's something that should be on people's minds.
Right.
But rest assured that we know that this is a real thing, and folks are working very, very hard to do their part to mitigate those things in advance.
That's good. And so how can we reach out to you? How can we contact you? Give us your contact information once again.
Yes, ma'am. So Amplify Action Fund, our website is www.amp vote.com. The Amplify Action Fund, our website is www.amplifyactionfund.com. My personal Twitter handle is on Instagram, because I'm actually on down. I don't even know how to work Twitter good. I'm not an agent myself. But on Instagram, I'm Raji at RAHGIE. And on Instagram, we are at Amp Our Vote and Amplify Action Fund. We love to have you all be a part. If you know anyone that, hey, I know that it's too late to vote in tomorrow's election, but if you're not registered to vote, voter registration doesn't just end because an election comes. So go ahead and get registered for the next election. You can check our website out and you can register to vote there.
That's good, because so often when the election is over, we forget about it. And so I'm glad to hear that you're saying, look, just because this election has come to a close, there's another one that's coming and you've got to be involved. Rashad, it has been a joy having you today. Thank you so very much. I know you're here in Atlanta working, and I see the people working behind you there. It's actually great. It just lets everyone know that you're a man on the move. So thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Smith, and thank you for doing this work with My Political Faith. I think it's awesome. I love the show, and it's just great to see you shining.
Thank you so very much. And for those of you that are tuned in today, I'd like to say thank you for watching our show. And we look forward to the next time when we come together for My Political Faith. Have a wonderful day. Until next time.